This is the end of the Peloponnesian Wars today, my friends. After the disaster that was the Sicilian expedition for Athens, Sparta smells that its prey is hurt. I'm the Archivist. Let's jump back in. It is 412 BC. Come spring, and after a few preliminary maneuvers, an Athenian fleet of 40 ships, including 7 galleys of Chios, presses a fleet of 20 Peloponnesian ships against the coast at Speraion, near Abydos. A few mooring hulls are disabled, and the Peloponnesian navarch Alcamenes is killed. Additionally, one Peloponnesian galley sailing back to Greece from Sicily is intercepted and captured by another force of 30 Athenian triremes. So Athens is still in the game, it seems, right? Well, despite these setbacks, the Peloponnesians from the region of Sparta, helped by the Athenian exile Alcibiades, rise an insurrection among the Greek cities of Ionia against Athens' hegemony in the Aegean Sea. Chios, Miletus, Teos, and others are amongst the seditious. Several squadrons of both sides from there on roam in the Aegean, and the Spartano-Persian alliance strengthens, some Persian soldiers lending a hand to the Ionian insurgents. 3 treaties are signed this year and the next by the Lacedaemonians of Sparta and Darius II of Persia, notably that of Miletus, by which, in return for the Persians paying the Peloponnesian sailors, the Lacedaemonians recognized Darius's control over Ionia after the war. While this time, the Peloponnesian ships stuck at Speraion, with the assistance of other units, managed to break off the Athenian blockade, even taking 4 ships from the enemy during the engagement. The year being decidedly dense, a short time after, 10 Athenian triremes fail at taking Herria, Ionian revolted city. Other Athenian elements support a popular uprising at Samos, this island, where 200 notables are killed, 400 exiled. These will only come back in 404 thanks to Lysander of Sparta. Still during the summer, Mytilene on the island of Lesbos is taken by the Athenians, bringing it back into its fold. Galleys from Chios are caught there too. As some Peloponnesians and other Ionian rebels are trying to rally other places of the island to their side, the Athenians, in June or July, seize Polycna, fortified outpost of Clazomenes, which is submitted to. Elsewhere, some Lacedaemonians are defeated, their leader killed, in a skirmish near Miletus at Panomos. The Athenians score even more successes on the island of Chios near Cardamilla. At Poliskos, Phine, Leuconion, all against the local islanders. Get it? From then on, simply cowering behind their walls. At last, summer is nearing its end. Over 3,000 hoplites from Athens, right here, Argos, over there, ally of Athens, and more, aboard 50 ships or so, come and land at Miletus to besiege the city. 800 Milesians, supported by Peloponnesians, Persians of satrap Tissaphernes, and with Alcibiades in their ranks, decide on a sortie in force, hurrying for battle. When it starts, on the right, the Argives are repulsed with 300 casualties by the Milesians, but elsewhere, the Athenians do so well against the Peloponnesians and then the Persians that even the Milesians decide to retreat in the city. The erection of a siege wall is started, but the day after, the siege is already lifted as 50 warships are approaching to rescue Miletus. These reinforcements are both Peloponnesians and Sicilians, 20 units coming directly from Syracuse. Well, almost directly. Disappointed by this retreat, the Argives go back home, and rather than pursuing the Athenians, the allied fleet, on demand of Tissaphernes, sails for Iassos, south of Miletus, taking it from Amorges, a Persian revolted against his king Darius II. Amorges captured, a few of his mercenaries of Peloponnesian origins are integrated in the army. Here, by the way, is a pileus helmet, mostly donned by light infantry, but not only. As the cold days approach, the Athenians, reinforced by 35 galleys come from their home city, decide on coming back to Miletus. Nobody gets rid of them that easily, apparently. A maritime blockade is settled, and 30 ships are also sent against Chios northward. Before they arrive, 20 Chiot and Peloponnesian galleys leave that island, headed for Pteleon, east of there on the Ionian coast. But they failed to take it, same at Clazomenes. There's also 2 days of fighting at Cnidus in southern Anatolia, that the Athenians also fail at taking despite its lack of fortifications. But let's get back to Chios, where the Athenians, commanded by Strombichides, arrive. They land, take the minor place of Delphinion as a base of operations on the island. Chios city, its walls brought low 12 years prior, upon Athens' command then fearing a rebellion, is in dire need of help. To close the year, a little less than 30 Peloponnesian ships leave their Greek region under the command of Spartan Antisthenes around the winter solstice to sail for Ionia, of course. By the end of the year or the start of the next, they meet about 10 Athenian ships near the island of Melos in the Cyclades, burning 3 and putting the rest to flight. And now, 411 BC, biggest year of the video, get ready folks. First, Cyprus, recently submitted by the Phoenicians, vassals from the Persians, is retaken by Evagoras, son of late king Nicholas of Salamis, exiled to Cilicia by the Phoenicians. Evagoras becomes Evagoras I of Salamis thanks to a surprise attack against Phoenician local king Abdimon. In Thrace, now, King Seuthes I decides to march towards Tauric Chersonese, nowadays Crimea, against Athenian interests. The expedition is not successful. Seuthes' reign ends shortly after, and some power struggle then occur in Thrace. And we'll also note an Egyptian revolt against the Persian occupier. It is led by an armyteers from Tanis, over here in the delta of the Nile. Some Greek cities like Sparta support him, one way or another, against Darius II, the Achaemenid. We don't have much information on this, and will not mention it again before 405 BC. Back to the Peloponnesian War and to Ionia with this beautiful drawing of a trireme. The Athenians, now strongly positioned at Delphinion, continue the siege of Chios. Instead of going and assist the Chiots, the 75 or so Peloponnesian and allied galleys in Ionia prefer to regroup, pillaging here and there on their way, with Spartan Antisthenes that's arriving in the area. But they pillage too much apparently, being so slow at regrouping that part of them are surprised before the end of January near the island of Syme in the Dodecanese, this archipelago. They are surprised by 20 Athenian ships commanded by Carminos. 3 Peloponnesian triremes are sunk. But when the allies finally regroup for good, the Athenians must flee and leave 6 of their own hulls to the enemy. As the 2 great Peloponnesian fleets link up with each other, they amount to more than 100 warships. Winter is almost over now, and the island of Rhodes, this famous one, member of the Delian League of Athens, is forced by this massive fleet, landing before the unfortified minor place of Camiros, to leave Athens' side, which will result on several Athenian raids, the first right at the start of this year's spring, against Rhodes. Note that Rhodes city itself, at the northern tip of the island, will only be built in a few years, shortly before the end of the Peloponnesian War. Now, spring. On Chios, the Chiots and some Peloponnesian allies attacked the Athenians' fortifications of Delphinion. The Athenians fought on the island. A section of its wall is seized, along with a few of their triremes, but their counterattack restores their situation and even kills the local Lacedaemonian leader, Pedaritos. While this time, in Euboea, the vast island along eastern Greece, taken through treachery of Oropos by the Boeotians of this very region north of Athens. Oropos is taken from the Athenians. Eretria, other Euboean city, wishes to part from Athens too and would like to receive the support of Peloponnesian vessels, but all are occupied in Ionia, where they still hesitate, despite their numerical superiority over the Athenians there, to engage in a decisive battle. We rather see middle-sized engagements like this one as the hot days start. 36 Chiot and allied galleys decide to attack 32 Athenians and score a minor, non-decisive success. And as the cities of Abydos, of Hellespont, and Lampsacus nearby, all in this area, have turned to the Dorian, the Peloponnesian side, the Athenians divert 24 of their ships besieging Chios to go there and intervene. The land warriors before Lampsacus, these hoplites rejecting the ones of Lampsacus inside the city before taking it easily, as it is not fortified. Abydos is a hard nut to crack, and the Athenians decide to watch it from Sestos in Chersonese, opposite from it. And, still on this eastern front, Samos, this very small island just below the name Colophon, and just fortified by the Athenians, is approached by Peloponnesian ships, now bolder after their small success at Chios. But the Athenians' unit there refuse the fight, and both small fleet will continue playing cat and mouse until a small engagement, 8 hulls against 8, before Byzantium. They traveled, tell me. Byzantium place soon siding for the Peloponnesians. Bad news for Athens that's just prey to some inner disorders, which unfortunately resonate up until its troops in the east, notably the garrison of Samos, where some blood is shed. And back to Greece itself, as this summer continues, King Agis II of Sparta approaches Athens from the fortified outpost of Thessalia, north of it. With him, numerous troops with recent reinforcements, including 300 Neodamodes, former helots made citizens. But he's nonetheless repulsed by a mix of hoplites, archers, peltas, and cavalrymen coming out to meet him. The Athenians are still the toughest of nuts too, and Agis' recently arrived reinforcements go back home. And while this time, dissensions occur among Peloponnesian and other allied forces in Ionia, and Tissaphernes, the Persian satrap so far allied with the Peloponnesians, changes sides. He's been convinced by the Athenian exile Alcibiades that's managed to go back in grace among the Athenian troops in Samos. Maybe he's got his ticket back to Athens right there, close to his home city that had exiled him in 415 BC, a fleet of about 40 ships, a mix coming from Peloponnese, Sicily, and Italy via Locris and Taranto, raids the territory of Aegina between Peloponnese and Attica. It is a very small island. Then the fleet heads for Eretria in Euboea. There, 36 Athenian galleys try to ambush it, but are repulsed in great disorder. Ships are pushed against the coast, and runaways are massacred by people from Eretria, only a handful managing to shelter in a nearby fort, still held by Athens. This one has just lost 22 triremes, and Euboea is slowly but surely escaping from Athens' grasp. In the upcoming decades, the island will get closer to Thebes, important city of Boeotia, right here, before quarreling internally between partisans of Athens and Macedon. Then we report a minor raid of 16 Peloponnesian ships in Chersonese, this region, Eleontus being besieged for a short day. Then there is the siege of the Athenian fort of Oinoe on the border of Boeotia by Corinthians and Boeotians, the Corinthians from here wanting to avenge the death of some of their own during the retreat of Agis II from before Athens. The fort of Oinoe surrenders before summer's end, as a traitor makes the Athenian garrison believe that Athens itself has by treaty agreed on the surrendering of the place. It is now September, and an Athenian attack against Metimna on the northern coast of Lesbos fails. Same against Eressos on the western coast. Minor engagements also occur at sea close to the Hellespont between the Athenians and Peloponnesians. Athenian strategos or navarch Thrasybulus is the author of 2 naval victories before the end of the year in this sector at Cynossema and Abydos. He prevails against the ships of Spartan Mindarus despite their numerical superiority. At Cynossema, 86 Spartan ships, including 25 Boeotian triremes and Syracusan units on the right, north, fighting 76 enemy galleys, take the upper hand over the Athenian center, which goes ashore, abandoning several hulls. But Thrasybulus, on his own right, holds his own and hits the enemy in the flank, while on the Athenian left, his lieutenant Thrasilus holds the Syracusans off long enough for them to give up on fighting by seeing the Spartans' rout. Later, at Abydos' second battle, 74 Athenian units against 97 Spartans, let's say, have the delight of seeing, mid-fight, 18 triremes coming to reinforce them, led by none other than Alcibiades the Exile, coming straight from Samos. Alcibiades allows for an easy victory, 30 Peloponnesian ships being captured and 15 Athenian galleys that had been lost at Cynossema being recuperated. Alcibiades is for good back into Athens' honor, and the revolt of the Ionian cities is quelled this very year or the next. Parallel to this, 8 Byzantine galleys mooring near Harpagion, not far from old Troy and this sector, are taken by the Athenians. Then Cyzicus, unfortified and recently defecting, is forced back into the ranks. On their side, the Peloponnesians attack Eleontus at the mouth of the Hellespont, where they take back some of the ships they had lost recently to the enemy. Southeast of there, at Entendros, minor place of Mysia, Delian hoplites, so from the island of Delos, are assassinated and some Persians ousted. Note that Greek inhabitants of Atramittion, Edremit today between Mysia and Aeolis, among them Delian refugees, have been massacred this year by the Persian Arsaces, sent by the satrap of Caria, Tissaphernes. And we get to 410 BC, from where things really accelerate until 404 and the final act of this Peloponnesian War. So here during the spring, a new naval battle takes place near Cyzicus, recently taken by Sparta's side in the Sea of Marmara, the Propontis, back then. Athenian strategoi Thrasybulus and Alcibiades take 86 ships against Spartan Mindarus, who leads 80 triremes. Ambushed by the Athenian fleet split into several elements, Mindarus is forced to take refuge on land, and he is then killed as Pharnabazus, Persian satrap of Hellespont and Phrygia, arrive to try and rescue him in vain. The whole Spartan fleet is lost, and Lacedaemonia proposes a peace to Athens, like after Sphacteria in 425, but the city of Attica refuses again. Oh, and this is a beautiful modern replica of Athenian trireme, the Olympias, and you can really sail it. Well, if you have 180 friends to help you at the oars, of course. 409. The Punic city of Carthage, a little bit west of this, has not forgotten about a certain defeat of 480 BC, and it sends one Hannibal with an army in Sicily, where he attacks the harbor of Motier on the western coast and destroys Selinonte after a brief siege. Better map, you can see Carthage over here. Greeks called Sumakoi or Biotoi fight as auxiliaries for Carthage during this campaign. And then we also note a revolt against the Persian rule in both Media and Lydia. But the very big information actually of this year is the loss of its stronghold of Pylos for Athens in western Peloponnese, which it held since the Battle of 425 BC. What a blow. Hey, you sure you shouldn't have accepted that peace early on? Moving on to 408, in China, the Shangsheng or Zongshan, ephemeral barbarian state created by the Di in the northeast, is conquered by Wei General Wen. On the other side of the continent, Darius II, the Persian, sends his own son to end the Lydian and Mede revolts, which is ably done. Cyrus is made satrap of Lydia, Phrygia, and Cappadocia. In the upcoming decades, a tribe of northern Media, the Cadouci, will rise new trouble, forcing new Persian troops to act to contain it. And in Sicily, it is now Hymera that is destroyed by the Carthaginians. We are still on the western half of the island. There, 3,000 Greeks are burned. The Syracusans, however, resort to small war in the region of Selinonte. Among them, Hermocrates, who commanded the Syracusan ships at the Battle of Cyzicus and had been exiled after this defeat. Despite his actions against the Carthaginians, he'll die next year in some influence struggles in Syracuse. Elsewhere, after Chalcedon by the start of the year, the Athenian Alcibiades takes Byzantium, retakes it precisely as it had rebelled after the Athenian defeat in Sicily. Here, Byzantium has been defended beyond its inhabitants by exiled Spartan Clearchus with mercenaries that he's used before against the Thracians of the north of Chersonese that menaced the city. Later, Clearchus will be hired by Cyrus the Persian. 407. We are moving almost to the end of the Great Athens-Sparta War. Carthaginian general Hannibal has received reinforcements in Sicily. He submits Agrigentum on the southern coast, Gela and Camarina between here and 405. And by the end of this year, 407, at Notium or Notion, close to Colophon in Ionia, 100 triremes of Alcibiades are defeated, 15 ships captured in his last battle. He'll soon be exiled again and killed, so soon after being welcomed back as a hero in Athens. It is the end of often changing sides guy Alcibiades. At Notium, he's been beaten by Lysander, Lacedaemonian navarch, after a minor land sendback of the Spartan. The Achaemenid Persians pour much money into the Peloponnesian War effort, allowing Sparta to increase its crews' wages so significantly that even some from the Athenian side defect to come over. This doesn't smell good at all for Athens. 406 BC, on the Roman side of things. It's been a long time, tell me. Anxur is taken from the Volsci by the Romans. No more danger for Rome south of it. But the conflict with Veii, north of Rome, Etruscan city, resumes. Maybe since 408 in truth. This time, the Romans set a permanent siege around Veii, building at least one winter camp and paying their soldiers for the first time. This siege will be very long. Back to the Greeks. After a minor success of Lysander the Lacedaemonian at Ephesus, last naval victory of Athens at the Arginusae Islands against Spartan naval Callicratidas coming to replace Lysander. Callicratidas has first had a minor success against one outnumbered Conon, cornered in the harbor of Mytilene in Lesbos, but he's there killed at the Battle of the Arginusae in August, vanquished by the Athenian rescue fleet between Lesbos and Anatolia. In total, 30,000 sailors, 120 Peloponnesian and 150 Athenian ships have been involved. The 110 rescue triremes have been built in a single month, mobilizing the entire population of Athens. This one only loses 25 ships, its adversaries 3 times more. But, huge shadow over this victory, most of the Athenian strategoi take flight instead of going back to Athens, and those who dare doing it are executed. Why? Because they've been forced to abandon some of their dead and shipwrecked because of a sudden storm at the end of the battle, a serious crime for ancient Greeks. But Athens maybe should think twice before losing so many competent commanders, even as Peloponnesian crews become more competent on their part. Between this year and the next, more and more Aegean islands like Kos in the Dodecanese pass to Sparta's side by force or willingly. Last but 1 year, 405. First, the king of Thrace, Archivist I, takes Seudes II as his co-king, and he gives him some coastal lands in southern Thrace. Archivist I, during his reign, had to fight against the Triballi of the north, who took some lands from him. Then, there are new anti-Persian unrest in Egypt, apparently again fueled by Arminius from Tanis. Moving on to Sicily, where Gela on the southern coast is taken by the Carthaginians. A plague, however, strikes them, their general Hannibal dying, and a peace is made the following year with the Syracusans. Greece. Now, the end is nigh. Agis II and Pausanias, the 2 kings of Sparta, are exceptionally both in campaign in Attica, the second coming to reinforce the first, present there since a few years ago already, the fort of Thessalia, north of Athens, serving as some kind of permanent siege camp. The blockade is intensifying before Athens, the coup de grace approaching. And east of there, north of the Hellespont, the Battle of Aigos Potamoi is fought in December. As Athens still receives grain from the Black Sea, the Lacedaemonians want to cut the supply line. Their fleet and their allies, notably Boeotians, and all partially financed by the Persians, commanded by Nervac Archos with Lysander as his lieutenant, meet that of Athens near the mouth of the Aigos Potamoi, the river of the goat. In English, you can also call it Aigos Potami. Lysander first takes Lampsacus on the southern bank of the Hellespont, the ships covering the land forces led by Thorax. The Athenians settle on the opposing bank, and then several observation days start, each camp measuring the other one before the decisive battle. But then, Lysander decides to launch the attack at the moment of the day he's noticed the Athenians of naval Conon pull their ships ashore to dry them and rest. This is the final catastrophe for Athens' power at sea. Out of 200 units, 160 are destroyed or captured. All the men are slaughtered except 3,000 prisoners. After this crushing defeat, Athens loses practically all of its allies and subjects. The cities of Ionia fall back under Persian influence, and the Persian fleet joins the Lacedaemonians before Athens and its Piraeus harbor. Navak Konon goes into exile at Cyprus. 404, the final and short year of this long and dramatic video. In Lower Egypt, Amyrtius of Sais has amazingly kicked the Persians out, and he can proclaim himself pharaoh. He'll be the only one of the 28th dynasty. He reigns for 4 short years as Psamtik IV. Moreover, the Achaemenid king Artaxerxes II, succeeding to his father Darius II by the start of the year, still holds Upper Egypt. And now, April, Greece. You all saw it coming, right? Under dire blockade by sea and land, Athens capitulates to Sparta and its allies. Its Delian League is no more, its long walls toward its harbor destroyed. You can see Lysander the Spartan represented before Athens here in a very after the facts drawing, of course. Adding insult to an already severe injury, incitated by Thebes and Corinth, Sparta executes the 3,000 prisoners of Aigos Potamoi. Lacedaemonia has the hegemony over Greece. The Peloponnesian Wars are over. It seems that King Pausanias of Sparta remains in Attica until next year with his troops, as in Athens the 30 tyrants are put in place of the democracy for a short time, as we'll see in the next video. Finally, on September the 4th, Lycophron, tyrant of Pherae in Thessalia, scores a victory on the field of battle over Larissa, massacring its warriors. His grasp over Thessalia is such that his opponents will seek support from abroad. Aristippus of Larissa, before 395 BC, will receive enough funding from Cyrus the Young, the Persian, to recruit 4,000 mercenaries. Cyrus, who tries to assassinate his elder brother, King Artaxerxes II, fails and gets a pardon. Hold on to that luck, mate. Anyway, that was it for the end of the Peloponnesian Wars. Next week, Sparta's hegemony over Greece and the epic of the 10,000 in Persia. Oh, and catapults too, yeah. Comment, like, subscribe. The Archivist wishes you all a good day.